Generals gathered in their masses, just like witches at black masses. Evil minds that plot destruction, sorcerer of death's construction. In the fields of bodies burning, as the war machine keeps turning. Death and hatred to mankind, poisoning their brainwashed minds. Oh Lord, yeah. Darkness world stops turning, ashes where the body's burning. No more war pigs have the power, and as God has struck the hour, day of judgment God is calling. On the knees the war pigs crawling, begging mercies for the sins. Satan laughing spreads his wings. Oh Lord, yeah.
Okay, good morning, everybody. How are we all doing today? It is Larsen Live. It is December 2nd, 2023. And yes, the 20s are back in all the worst ways, and we'll get to that in a second. We opened up with War Pigs by Black Sabbath, and for no particular reason, completely unrelated to that, Henry Kissinger has passed away at the age of 100. Yes, there's no connection there between the song and the first news. None at all. Anyway, I saw a particular headline about that. It was in Dutch. It said Henry Kissinger ist dood, Dood. Yeah, Dutch is not a serious language. I kid, of course. My wife speaks Afrikaans natively, and Afrikaans is a derivative of Dutch. Speaking of my wife, she has actually started working, so she will not be here. But she is listening, and she might comment if she can. Yes, so it's a sausage fest again, so we can all take off our pants and pee in the drinking fountains, if we wanted to, of course, as Homer Simpson would put it. Yes, how are we all doing today? We got some comments here. Uh, Clint H says it's 15:42. I guess that would be wait, would that be 3:42 p.m.? Okay, you can always depend on me. Thank you, sir. Biff Slankovich mentions things from the 1920s, bad things like the Tulsa race riots, but also good things like Velveeta. Well, I don't know, Velveeta is not a good thing, but Reese's Peanut Butter Cups is good. Migration to the cities is good, I suppose, as is women's right to vote. I mean, it's a little iffy. I'm kidding, of course. Uh, but yeah, we're not getting the good stuff about the 1920s, like Art Deco architecture and nice clothes and good music and good writers. No, but we are getting the bad stuff, like racial conflict and general unpleasantness. Also, there's conflicts in Eastern Europe. Italy is undergoing a right wing takeover, wink, wink. Spain is deeply divided by intensely committed ideological parties. In fact, Spain has just outlawed public praying upon the rosary. And this is a direct quote from the news people. Socialist nationalism is on the rise in Germany. Firebrand Sarah Wagenknecht new party combines anti-wokery, Russophilia, and left-wing economics. Socialist nationalism, not, of course, to be confused with National Socialism. Clint H. and Biff Slankovich also mentioned James Cagney as something from the 1920s. I am pretty sure his star-making movies, such as Angels with Dirty Faces, which Biff is referencing, came out in the 1930s. To be fair, James Cagney was starting his career on Broadway and also bumming around, getting into fistfights in Yorkville in the 1920s, so it's not entirely wrong. Yes, I do enjoy the old-timey gangster films. Okay. Daphne says she's still listening. We better behave ourselves. No, it's going to be a sausage fest. Biff Slankovich says the cartoon had the devil dunking Kissinger into a bath with Nixon. It's not enough room in here for the two of us. Yes. With that being said, I did see a Russian tweet showing some amount of respect to Kissinger, saying, he was a worthy enemy, a very intelligent enemy, certainly much more of a competent threat than the dumbasses running America today. I suppose that is also true. But hey, I call it like I see it. But, yep, the 1920s is back in all the bad ways. The rise of out-and-out communism in this country and presumably a large, violent blowback will surely come soon. Another global pandemic we just went through, and allegedly there's another one coming out very soon. East Asian tensions skyrocketing. China is not in the throes of warlords at the moment, but, the mandate of heaven is what it is, and it could go off. It could happen again. Yeah, America is becoming isolationist again. There's a verge of depression again, and growing racial tensions in many countries. It's all the bad parts of the 20s and none of the good parts. Yes. Biff Slamkovich says that European countries have really bad GDP. We're good here. I don't know if we're good here, sir. I mean, yeah, the GDP is better here, I suppose, but the rise of racial tension on all sides, growing rent prices, general lack of employment opportunities. It's not great. It's not great in this country. And of course, you go up north in Canada, and I don't know what the hell Trudeau's doing. He's like, "Yay, assisted suicide." Justin Trudeau says as he dances around in his parachute pants. Clint H specifies that Jimmy Cagney's movies were set in the 1920s. That's true. Dubious 835 says, "I wonder when the economic meltdown will repeat itself." I mean, we're basically in the midst of one already. And also, like the 1920s, massive homeless colonies all around American cities. Of course, the Hoovervilles in the 1920s and 30s, homeless people still dressed with a modicum of self-respect back then. They at least attempted to wear a suit and a hat and a tie. I feel like the homeless people back then, maybe just because they didn't have super powerful opiates, but they weren't screaming derelicts like they are now. I don't necessarily believe in like the whimsical hobos, but you know, I feel like there was like a grain of truth to that back in the day, because believe it or not, hobos back in the day they actually had like conventions and rules and stuff. They were basic, simple things like try to take a bath as often as possible, respect the law and order, try to find work whenever you can. Be appreciative of people who give you money. And one hobo law that I remember very clearly was literally just beat the shit out of any child molesters you see. They're the scum of the earth. So, I'm sure obviously a lot of homeless people were, some kind of derelict back in the day, but they had rules and conventions back in the day. I don't see any hobo conventions nowadays. There are no more whimsical hobos. But, at least there's no prohibition now. So that's good. Wonton Soup says, "I didn't build a bomb shelter for nothing." Yes, I might have built one myself if I actually owned my own backyard, which I don't. So yeah, things aren't good. I feel like I could say that really at any point, but yes, things are not good here, there, or anywhere. And speaking of over there, speaking of Europe, we all know that the GDP is bad. As I've said, there's massive like unemployment in Spain, which has led to massive protests. Because as we all know, revolutions are not fought on full bellies. And much like the Spanish Republicans back in the 30s, Spain is taking drastic anti-religious measures, which might be bad. And what's going on in Spain's Catholic brethren, Ireland? Oh, look at that. The Green Party in Ireland literally says, "We're restricting freedom for the common good." What happened? Well, as I mentioned last week, an Algerian migrant to Ireland stabbed a bunch of people. People were a bit upset at this. The government is cracking down on people who are upset at that. Not, the stabbers. Yeah, they're basically saying, like, they're coming down on people who are posting memes that might protest such things. Let me just look up the exact thing that was said here. Yes, Green Party Senator O'Reilly is like, "We're restricting freedom for the common good. I don't approve of such things." So, yes, we all know the United Kingdom also restricts the memes. People have been persecuted for memes, posting memes on Twitter and things like that. And I guess Ireland's joining in too. For a country that often defines itself by its bitter feuding and violence against the British, they do seem to take all their worst ideas. Yeah, we got to restrict the freedom because it's for your own good, peasant. Yeah, they're literally gonna like put people in prison for memes. Why am I saying memes and memes? Okay. Okay, Clint H asks in the comments, just a question. Is the commercial call up for the military still showing quite frequently? Still heard a while before. They're more frequent than before in the States, I mean. Uh well, the thing with the military in the United States is people were a bit nervous because they've recently stopped doing all the like, my lesbian mom commercials, and they're now doing like, you know, square-jawed manly men doing manly things, the kind of things you would expect in a military ads. So people are thinking they're trying to do a military buildup. However, they're still talking about major recruitment uh, failures, failing to meet recruitment goals, and they're really floating about the idea of giving citizenship to illegal immigrants if they fight in the military, which, that's never gone wrong in the history of the world, certainly. So, yeah, I think recruitment's still pretty bad. I really think it might be like the hippie thing where it's like, the old hippie joke of what if they declared war and nobody came? I legitimately think that might happen because the idea of fighting for the United States as it is now is overwhelmingly not something people want to do. A lot of people are talking about, oh, like, a lot of people are fat and they're on drugs and stuff. But I'm sure there's still at least a few million, in shape people who aren't dumbasses in this country. The problem is that the people who are smart and they are in shape, they tend to be people that aren't going to buy into the military industrial complex chicanery. I mean, I certainly won't. Because I know for a fact they were banning people from the military who refused to get vaccines. And now they're starting to kind of relent on that. They're really getting desperate at this point. Biff Slankovich says, Tommy Tuberville, thanks. What a guy. I wish I knew who that was. Yes, he's backing down on his holds on the military. He's a senator. Yeah, good luck getting recruitment, guys. You've alienated, the scrappy rednecks who make up the bulk of the military, and now you're desperate to fill those ranks. Yeah, it's not happening. What else is going on in the world besides restriction of civil liberties? Oh, and speaking of the governments, um, if you want an illustration of how shitty the education system is, here's a direct quote from Miguel Cardona, education secretary. This is a direct quote from C-SPAN. I think it was President Reagan who said, "We're from the government and we're here to help." I'm not at all a fan of Ronald Reagan, but even I know that the actual quote from Teflon Ron was, the 9 most terrifying words of the English language are, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help." So this is, a man from the Department of Education who failed a basic historical fact. I mean, say what you will about Wilson. I think Wilson, but also Reagan, that was his middle name. Say what you will about Ronald Reagan. His views on government intervention were made pretty clear in that quote in any context. And you got to try really hard to misinterpret a very simple quote like that. Secretary of Education, my God. You can literally pick any educational YouTuber, including myself, and put us in the position of being the Secretary of Education, and it would be way better. Yeah, apparently Miguel Cardona has a doctorate in education, which incidentally, PhDs in soft sciences are just the most midwit shit you can imagine. I have very low opinions of people who have EDDs. Just FYI. And not to use other acronyms, EDD and FYI. But yeah, anybody who has a PhD in education is probably not somebody you should respect all that much. But, why would I expect this Secretary of Education to have some basic knowledge of history? Hey, we got some comments here. Biff Slankovich says, the senator who blocked all the leadership appointments. Yep, Tommy Tuberville. Shinseki Evin says, this is not my America anymore, and I will not fight for it. Yeah, I'm not fighting for this crap hole either. Timothy Adams says, we live in the Google age, and the Secretary of Education can't get a quote right. Dubious 835 says, yeah, he helped all right, referring to Reagan. He helped big business, destroying organized labor, all the deregulation. Well, yeah, like I said, I'm not a fan of Reagan at all. But, the quote is not bad. And Secretary Cardona just failed to get that right. Dubious 835 also said, and maybe people are just tired of dying in wars that started by the 1% to snatch up more resources. Yeah, that too. Biff Slankovich says, I had to laugh about George Santos' removal from the House yesterday. He was the comrade in his mother's credit cards, amongst other ridiculous defraudments. No more red blazers and yellow ties. Yeah, you'd really think that a senator could dress himself better. I mean, it's really great that we have like a pseudo aristocracy that doesn't do, the good things that aristocracy do, like set fashion trends and, do public works. Oh, but they have the degeneracy down, certainly. Timothy Adams says, I took a couple of educational electives in grad school. They were trash. One was literally a full class on how to build bulletin boards. Yeah, the education classes are horse shit. If you know the material, you know the material. You'll learn on the job. And in a second while I coffee myself. Fortunately, I had to pour my own coffee. But yeah, education classes are like 95% horseshit. Look, you learn the material, and as long as you can avoid the pitfall of like, he makes me feel bad, whatever vague horseshit kids do to complain about you. As long as you avoid that, you'll be fine. Clint H asks, I know who will fight for the country. Dun 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 dun. The secret man, Frank Dukes. Yeah, you're in luck, sir, because I just finished the video on that this morning, and it will be up tomorrow. Just got to make the thumbnail for the video, and we'd be good to go. So keep your eyes open for that. Timothy Adams says, just draft the migrants when they arrive, just like the Civil War. Even in that case, like the majority of soldiers in the Union Army were still, native-born citizens. It was like 25% were migrants. And yeah, obviously a lot of them were not particularly happy about that. The 1863 draft riots, were Irish immigrants being mad at they're literally being drafted off the boat and sent to the front lines. But Clint H says, about time. Cheers. Yes, I was a bit busy at work, but suddenly my schedule cleared up. Well, which is to say that like the winter holiday is almost upon us, so things are kind of slowing down, and we're actually going to get like the last week of the month off completely until the 2nd. So, yeah, I do have some free time. Biff Sienkiewicz says he got his master's in education by taking a couple of good courses and shooting pool with the center forward of the New York Cosmos. Oh boy, the USSL. That's a trip down memory lane. But I'm sure you learned your trade mostly on the job through student teaching and substitute teaching, like I did. I mean, none of this crap about like putting up bulletin boards and how to put your hands down so Brappy can punch you in the face. And people wonder why the education sucks when we have these cretins, running the show. Yeah, but speaking of, you know, the schools, and, you know, kind of related since it does have to do with families, uh, a recent article in the Washington Post came out. Opinion: if attitudes don't shift, a political dating mismatch will threaten marriage. Shadi Hamid says this won't be to everybody's liking, but please read our new editorial on how ideological polarization is creating a marriage crisis amongst young Americans. A decline in marriage is something we should all be concerned about. Here's why. And yeah, this article basically talks about, you know, how society is becoming more and more polarized politically and ideologically. And many people are refusing to date and marry people you know, who don't match their politics. And people were mad about this. In particular, the ladies were angry about this. They were saying about, like, oh, men should learn empathy and get better politics. How dare women be expected to compromise in our beliefs, ideas, and morals? I mean, women are discovering that they can't find suitable male partners. Yeah, the shitlib women are having a bit of a real one, to be honest. So, a comment on this thread kind of summed up what I think the problem is. The empowered feminist women, they should be happy that marriage is faltering, but they are not happy. They're very angry, but they're just kind of sending their anger out all over the place, saying that the problem is that conservatives are dickheads. Like, all the good men are not uh, politically comparable. Some of them are just kind of spitefully saying, you know, maybe it's fine if women stay single rather than marrying people who don't respect them. Marriage is antiquated bullshit. Men should learn empathy. Bluntly, says Jem, women are not going to attach themselves to anti-feminist men because they don't have to. And that's having and will continue to have uncomfortable consequences for anti-feminist men. A lot of anger at quote-unquote right-wing chuds, but why can't they find men that are like them? I can't help but think that the reality is kind of between the lines here. Left-wing women don't seem to like left-wing men all that much because they're noodle-armed and douchey and passive-aggressive. They are attracted to the more masculine men who tend to lean a bit more to the right, but they can't be with them because their politics don't align. So what do? Well, you sit around with your pet cats and you get really angry. Like, you'd think that you could find suitable men that are your own political alignment, but I guess not. I believe studies have shown that left-wing women don't really like left-wing men all that much. Nobody likes a male feminist, not even female feminists. So they're kind of in between a rock and a hard place. Do they date a man that doesn't respect their political beliefs but is, sexually desirable? Or do they find the man who respects them politically but they don't find sexually desirable? And let's be honest, the left-wing man is probably seething with passive-aggressive sexual fury and resentment himself. So the solution is you're going to drink a lot of wine and get some pet cats. You know, I I think we should start investing in things that single women are going to be buying a lot of in the future. Kitty litter and wine and sex toys. This could be the windfall we're looking for, gentlemen. Okay, Miss Linkovich says, let's get a brappy cheer going. Let's not. My fury towards the brappy is a storied one indeed. Timothy Adams says, George Carlin was correct. To listen to his comments on speech and education, it is depressing at best. Yeah, they really don't want an education system that will train good, citizens that, will live the strenuous life and be citizens in a republic. They want workers. We'll get to wagie shit in a second. Timothy Adams says men like them also date men. Well, I didn't want to say that, but, you know, it's like I said in my video asking why are male feminists always creepy weirdos. It's because a lot of them, secretly hate women, but they adopt the politically correct, uh, you know, the politically correct mindset in the hopes that women will throw them, a couple of bones now and then. They hate women because they've always been looked down upon by women. And adopting new politics is much easier than going to the gym and getting a new wardrobe. Shinseki Evans says, Movie Bob is single, ladies. Put your money where your mouth is. Yeah, there's going to be no mouth putting anywhere, believe me. I mean, I want to say, like, Movie Bob isn't literally a 40-year-old virgin, but I've yet to see proof to the contrary. So, yeah, in conclusion, by investing kitty litter, it's going to be a rough few years. And by years, I mean decades. And yes, in case you're wondering, I have read multiple articles where women get the, soft, emasculated house husbands that feminist dogma always says they wanted, and they find that man so utterly revolting and disgusting that they break up with him pretty damn quick. Incidentally, every now and then I will read articles about women saying like, "Oh, I can't find good men. I can't find men that make more money than me." Almost as if women want men that make more money than them and can kind of take the lead, so to speak. And of course, the idea that women might have to be a little less picky and, maybe be a little bit realistic. That's just like, you can't do that. God forbid women, ameliorate their standards in the slightest. But yeah, it's all gonna work out in the end. Give me 1 second here as I fumble around on things I want to put in the stream. Yep, it's gonna be cat food, cat toys, wine, and dinner for one. Here we go. Uh, yeah, I talk slowly to, you know, get the thing onto the stream, and it's still not enough. C-Punk Messiah says, revisiting Fist of the North Star, it shows nuances of masculinity. Kenshiro is deadly and willing to kill, but he also has compassion and empathy. Yes, Kenshiro is a man who can literally punch your head off your shoulders, but he's not afraid to cry, and I respect that. Yep, this is the investment plan in the future, gentlemen. Cat food, cat toys, wine, and meals for one. Also sex toys. Yep, healthcare and elder care investment. Oh, yeah. My secret to investing is you look at the worst trends of society and then you invest in those. It's not good for your soul, but it seems to be pretty good so far. The stocks I've purchased have, at the very least, stayed steady. A lot of psychedelia and marijuana farms I've invested in. Shinseki Evans says, one of my best friends was a male feminist. Why were you friends with him, sir? His girlfriend would call me on the phone and complain about him. Oof. He wouldn't even choose where to go out to eat. It was always Milady's choice. Yeah, nobody likes a male feminist. Not even the female feminist. Yeah, yes, I have known many feminists who literally enjoy being, like, choked and stuff. Dubious 835 says, souls are overrated. Ask the rich. Yeah, I'm not enough of a ruthless dickhead to make myself super rich. Like, I have some semblance of human empathy, which keeps me strictly in the lower middle class. But, what can I do? My parents raised me well. Damn them. Kidding, mom and dad. But yeah, speaking of monetary investments and general bad things, we got some wagie L's here, and I quote, this came out just a couple days ago. A lucid dream startup says engineers can write code in their sleep. Work may never be the same. Yeah, that's right, Wagie. You thought you could escape work in your dreams? Wrong. You're going to be working in your dreams now. You're going to be working in your sleep. We will force you to dream codes. Yeah, you will never escape work. And I direct quote, the goal is to give people control over their dreams. They can use that time productively. An athlete could run through plays. A CEO could practice for a board meeting. A web designer could create new templates. The limiting factor is your imagination, founder and CEO Eric Wohlberg told Fortune magazine. And that is like the wagiest shit right there. Dream work. You can't escape work even at home. We will make you work, Wagie. You'll work at home, you'll work in your dreams. Like, there is no escape. Wow, that upsets me. Like, that upsets me a lot. Hey, remember back in the 90s when everybody thought that, like, the internet would give us all, like, you know, shorter work days and more leisure time and work from home? Yeah, that didn't happen. No, we're working longer, and they're coming for our dreams. Hey. Timothy Adams says dream work. Pornhub editors sleeping furiously. I don't know if wet dreams count as work per se, but yes, they did specifically mention that web designers can dream up new templates and codes. Thanks, COVID, says Timothy Adams. Yeah. Dream wages. Oh, yeah, and speaking of wages, uh, some archaeological news that came out that was a little interesting. I was reading on Twitter a history meme thing. It was talking about they found an ancient Egyptian time card for work, a 3,200-year-old time card. This limestone ostrakhan covers 280 days of the year with 40 different names and dates written in black. Red notes are reasons for being absent. Some of these notes for absences include the following. 1. I was drinking with Kansu. 2. My daughter was having her period. 4. I was brewing beer. I was building a house. I was bit by a scorpion. I was embalming somebody. And offerings to the gods. I like how making homebrew and going drinking with your friends was apparently a legitimate reason to leave work. Dare I say, ancient Egypt had more lenient work culture than modern day in some way. I mean, I'm pretty sure you can't leave work because your daughter's having her period nowadays. And you certainly can't leave work because you want to brew some beer, have a drink with your friend Kansu. No, I'm pretty sure even being bitten by a scorpion. Uh, yeah, the tweet says bit. I don't know if they meant stung. Yeah, I'm pretty sure if I got bit by a snake or a scorpion, I would still be expected to go to work. Yeah, it seems like that Kansu was a lot of the reason why everything people were like leaving work. Yeah, Kansu was both having drinks and he was making medicine. Perhaps Kansu was sort of the Ferris Bueller of ancient Egypt, making excuses to leave work. But I think it'd be good. I think it'd be good if our bosses would give us a day off every now and then so we can make our own beer. Okay. Dubious 835 says, almost into 2024, another year, another presidential election campaign to put another well-dressed jackass in the White House and pretend they represent our interests. Yes, of course. Of course. I mean, I vote third party usually, so I can pretend I'm doing something about it. I mean, I am proud to say that I am basically non-violent resisting the government as it is. I've already declared that I will point blank look them in the eye and tell them I will not join the military for whatever horseshit war you sign up for next. And to be honest, I don't approve of much the government does, and if I can passively resist in any other way, I would, you know, I would do so. Timothy Adams says Ben Franklin would have approved of the ancient Egyptian timesheet. Yes. I mean, I don't know what the work culture was like in ancient Egypt. I mean, I do know that you basically got drafted a couple months out of the year to labor for the pharaoh when you weren't, on your own shit farm. But I'm curious, what were the hours like? I know that this timesheet clearly shows that they got paid. What was the workplace like? Did they have HR departments? I'm going to wager they didn't. Dubious 835 says this is a one-party political system anyway. Yes, it sure is. Okay. So, we have some other, I guess we've left the serious news. If anything I talk about is at all seriousness. But yeah, let's go to the kind of sad and depressing things, the pop culture and general inanity and Twitter nonsense. So there was something went viral on the Twitters and the TikToks. A teacher who, I'm going to say she seems like a nice, pleasant young lady. She was voicing her frustration with the new generation of children. They were 5-year-olds listening to Pound Town, whatever the hell that song is. Apparently, it's some shitty song about flapping your buttocks all about. They were telling the teacher to her face to fuck off. Yeah, this is a shameful display of cultural ethics, and I'm not going to cast aspersions onto what cultural background these children came from, but yeah, they're very disrespectful kindergartners. The woman is a nice kindergarten teacher. She seems like a nice, reasonable young lady, and yeah, she was a bit upset at the damn kids. I gotta say, if 5-year-olds are acting like this, that is the parents' fault, 100%. The children should not be like flapping their asses around and listening to very vulgar songs. It's yeah, I don't, and I know I've said that like you shouldn't be allowed to smack little kids, but I would give the parents a stern talking to just so in the hypothetical Larsen Halleck presidency, I would tell the parents, look, in the Larsen administration, you know, 13 years and above children are allowed to get punched in the face by teachers. I don't want your children to get the shit kicked out of them when they grow up. So please tell them to stop listening to shitty music and being, sex crazed degenerates. But nobody listens to me. Okay. Timothy Adams says, referring to ancient Egyptian work culture, HR is the guy with the whip. Yeah, that's what I was afraid of. I mean, they've really just traded whipping for, intellectual tyranny. Eh. Hey, what else is going on in the news and the popular culture? Another Twitter thread I saw that was interesting. This is more high culture than pop culture. There was a thread of Vladimir Nabokov, the writer of Lolita's brutally honest opinions on 63 of the quote unquote greatest writers to ever write. He had some pretty brutal things to say about people like Honore de Balzac, who he referred to as a mediocrity. He spoke well of Jorge Luis Borges. He didn't care for Bertolt Brecht, who was a non-entity. He refers to Albert Camus as a second-rate ephemeral. He likes John Cheever, strangely, satisfyingly coherent. And something he says for a lot of people is a favorite for children ages 8 to 14, a writer for young people, a romantic in the technical sense. He says that about Chesterton, Arthur Conan Doyle, Joseph Conrad, people like that. Yeah, his opinion of American writers is mixed. He likes Cheever and Ralph Waldo Emerson, but he really does not like William Faulkner. He was a writer of Corn Cobby Chronicles. He's a non-entity. He also dislikes some of his own countrymen, like Fyodor Dostoevsky, a reactionary journalist, he says, and Nikolai Gogol. Yeah, he likes Hawthorne. He also likes Hemingway, even though he refers to him as a bit of a juvenile writer. Okay, Kipling is a boyish romantic. Brandywine, if I will. He also likes Herman Melville. I would have liked to film him at breakfast, feeding sardines to his cat. Very interesting. Yeah, Nabokov does not like Karl Marx. He really likes J.D. Salinger. He says Sartre is even more awful than Camus. Yeah, just lavishes praise around John Updike. And he says that Thomas Wolfe was a second-rate ephemeral. I do agree on that for a bit. But then again, one could also argue that does the writer of Lolita have valuable opinions to say about anybody? I kid, of course. He wrote other things besides that. And I don't know if you found that particularly interesting, but I did. I do like a literary critique from kind of snotty, fellow writers. Valentina says, I barely know most of them. I feel uncultured. Damn you, public school. Oh, believe me, you don't learn any of that shit in public school. I mean, there's no place in the American public school where you're going to learn about Albert Camus or John Paul Sartre. Not even like American writers like John Cheever or John Updike. You read a little bit of Hemingway, maybe a little bit of Nathaniel Hawthorne. But yeah, the writing sucks. Yeah, he didn't like Bertolt Brecht either, which is a shame because if nothing else, Bertolt Brecht inadvertently gave us Mac Tonight, and who doesn't like Mac Tonight? Timothy Adams says, I think his Lolita pegged American culture perfectly. Perhaps. But again, he doesn't seem to have a very high opinion of his own Russian culture. Shitting on Tolstoy and Dostoevsky. Wait, let me actually. No, he shat on Dostoevsky and Gogol. He felt that Tolstoy was sort of a Brandywine, like boyish writer. He likes he liked Anna Karenina, the supreme masterpiece of the 19th century. He says he didn't care for War and Peace. He referred to it as a rollicking historical novel written for general readers, specifically teenage boys. That is not how I would refer to War and Peace. But, now it's starting to make sense. Like, now I understand why Charles Schultz always depicted Charlie Brown having to read War and Peace in school. Now, the average reader of Peanuts might be wondering why an 8-year-old child is reading Tolstoy. Well, apparently Nabokov felt the same way, that children should be reading War and Peace. I don't remember if in the comic strips Charlie Brown ever successfully read the book, but in the Peanuts movie he did. Snoopy got about 1 page in. He was reading 1 word a day. And then he jumped over the fence and got the shit kicked out of him by a cat. I remember that one. That's a whole different issue. Let's see. What else is going on? Now we're going to leave high culture behind. We briefly touch upon high art and culture. And then we go back to just the horseshit. Oh, and this kind of ties back to the Irish thing. Uh, I should have mentioned this earlier, actually. Urban Outfitters, the clothing company, I guess, has been forced by the UK's Advertising Standard Authority, ASA, to remove a photo of a model from its website on the basis that the image is irresponsible and harmful. The model is a, seraph-like lady who has a thigh gap. Apparently, thigh gaps are irresponsible and harmful because they remind people that you can, in fact, lose weight and be thin. Like, oi, mate, you got a license for your thigh gap? Yeah, but breaking news. Models are thin and wayfish. How dare this woman, have thighs that don't, flummox together. Just when I think that the United States is doing all the stupid woke shit, the British come and they, pull up and they surprise me. The mother country pulls one out from under the colonies. Bravo, Blighty. Bravo. Okay, moving on to the end of things. Let's see what's going on in the video news. Okay, so apparently Call of Duty continues its descent into just utter irrelevancy. Call of Duty is adding new characters. Paul Atreides and Feyd-Rautha Harkonnen from Dune. Like, what the hell's going on with Call of Duty? I mean, I played, the original Call of Duty, and I played Finest Hour a lot. They were, really historically accurate. And now, all of a sudden, they're adding, superheroes and, characters from Dune and, Catmen. Like, when did the series go completely insane? And first of all, the second Dune movie hasn't come out. I assure you that nobody who plays little, Fortnite clones has any idea who goddamn Feyd-Rautha Harkonnen is. Yeah. I will kill him! You couldn't see, but I was like Sting in the 1984 Dune. I just stripped down to my Speedo and I was waving my knife around. The kids who play little crappy video nowadays, they don't read books. They haven't seen the movie. I mean, maybe they saw the Dune movie. I don't know. Uh, the second movie hasn't come out, so I know for a fact that Feyd-Rautha was not in the first movie. Old Austin Butler there. And is it just me? Do I find it a bit funny that Austin Butler, the guy who played Elvis, is Feyd-Rautha, and then Sting was Feyd-Rautha in the original Dune? It's like rock and roll singers are just, the only person who can play Feyd-Rautha is a rock and roll singer. But yeah, I will not be playing this new Call of Duty. Oh, and of course, Timothy Chalamet, Paul Atreides, and Zendaya Chani are also in Fortnite because Fortnite doesn't make any goddamn sense. It's just throwing characters from disparate works all together. Yeah, I'm sorry. There's only one Feyd-Rautha, and it's goddamn Sting, okay? He will always be the superior Feyd-Rautha. Stupid. Okay. Shinseki Evans says Sadiq Khan hates sexy ladies. Perhaps he does. Dubious 835 says, how dare someone not have cankles? And Call of Duty is just turning into Fortnite. Yeah, I know. I know that there was actually they made Call of Duty 1, which is literally going back to a historical setting. Which, dare I say you could have carved out a market niche by being historically accurate instead of doing, Rudy Tooty, jumping shooty Fortnite crap. But no, everybody's got to do the same shit. That's why all the video games are the same, and that's why video games suck nowadays. Clint H says, Fart Night costs a fortune with the kids' V-Bucks as well. I've literally seen like 3 seconds of Fortnite being played. I used to have a piano client, and when I would go to their house, the little brother would often be playing Fortnite while I was teaching the piano. And I remember he was playing as I think it was Daredevil, like from the Marvel comics. And I just looked over and I was like, "What the hell is this shit?" Doesn't make any sense. Yeah, there's a great choice for your first-person shooter game. The two main characters of a book where feuds are settled with hand-to-hand and knife combat. Yeah, there's a lot of shooting that goes on in Dune. There's no shooting. That's the point. Like the shields that they wear, like you can't shoot them. Stupid. Yeah, I don't care what people say. Like the 1984 David Lynch Dune is better than the Denis Villeneuve Dune. Like any day of the week. Like the David Lynch Dune is, arguably not successful, but he was at least trying to do like, some sort of like Cecil B. DeMille masterpiece, whereas the Villeneuve Dune movie is just generic, Hollywood blockbuster. Yeah, this is the Feyd-Rautha that's got to be in the game. Like, come on, where is it? Yeah, there we go. Yeah, imagine this guy in Call of Duty. I would play as this. This is the true Feyd-Rautha, and it always will be. Sorry, Austin Butler, but you aren't this. Feyd-Rautha is a false Kwisatz Haderach, but he's closer. But I would follow him in the battle before, Kwisatz, Elvis Presley there. Look, Call of Duty, put this into the game and everybody will be playing as this. And finally, in stupid pop culture nonsense, what's going on with Wizards of the Coast? Dungeons and Dragons in the upcoming 6th edition rulebook and monster manual and such, they're making changes for inclusion. They will be banning words and concepts like barbarian, savage, insanity, fat, and more, because they want to get rid of the idea of bioessentialism. And I quote from Wizards of the Coast, "The language of games evolves, like society evolves. Our hobby has grown tremendously, and seeing the language improve over time is important to me. We have to do a better job of diversity and inclusion. It's welcoming to all kinds of gamers." Changes. Savage will be changed to brutal or merciless. Instead of savage orcs, they refer to ruthless bandits. Barbarian is now changed to invader. The Drow no longer breed Quaggoths. They recruit and train Quaggoths. Dare I say that the Dark Elves are not really people we should be looking up to? They're bad people. They breed monsters to fight for them. Like, hello? Oh, and here's this stupid shit. Okay, monks in Dungeons and Dragons will no longer have chi powers. We are making a small adjustment to the very specific parallel to honor, quote unquote, as being related to Asian culture. Oh, and also they're like, we also have new modules of the game about like, oh, we have like wheelchair exclusive dungeons now, wheelchair accessible dungeons now, because that's how a dungeon works. And we have campaigns where you go to a magic school and have butt sex or whatever. It's stupid. Dare I say that there was nothing in the original rulebooks that said you couldn't have a goddamn school setting. Yeah, D&D's Strixhaven campaign has mechanics for what a hot mess college life can be. You can go to magic school and make besties and frenemies. Oh boy, I want a college mean girl simulator. There's already roles for charisma and roles for, wisdom and, bluffing and things like that. You literally had all the mechanics to do literally any kind of game you wanted in D&D if you just, use the slightest amount of creativity. The orcs make me feel like black people. Again, I've said this before and I'll say it again. If you look at like a green man with tusk and you're like, wow, this is black people, this makes me feel bad. Like, what? You do know that barbarian is literally one of the root classes in Dungeons and Dragons. So what are they going to call it now? Like the toxic masculinity man? No, it's bioessentialism. Oh my god. The gates needed to be kept, and we failed at it. Oh, it's 7th edition, where we can't have bandits and raiders anymore. That's classist, because, they're forced to steal because of the capitalist and, like, the mercantilism of the king and the duke is making them steal. Okay. Dubious 835 says it's crazy when you think that Fortnite is so old that it first started as an offshoot of the early 2010 zombie craze, then slowly just turned into every Hollywood IP mashup movie. C-Punk Messiah says, bet 6th edition will go the same way as 4th edition. I mean, I actually have the 4th edition books, and I mean, I know they made rule changes that people didn't like. It's like kind of simplified things, but it wasn't like this shit. Like, they didn't have all this diversity crap. Shinseki Evans says, boomers assure me that gender studies majors would work as baristas. They got hired as high-paid consultants to ruin everything that I love. Well said. Clint H says, the victim mentality people will find an excuse to make them victims out of anything. They cannot live without that card. And it's not like this concept is something new and exciting. Like, many people, okay, yes, like, many works of fantasy have, the quote unquote savage humanoids that, you have to fight. But I would also say that many works of fiction, in the modern day have, humanized them. Like, doesn't Warcraft humanize orcs? Like, The Legend of Zelda has humanized the moblins and bokoblins, pretty well. At least in the ones I've played, the more recent ones. And again, the, nothing they're saying is anything that Norman Spinrad didn't say in The Iron Dream back in 1974. Oh, we're the innovators. No, you're doing 50-year-old like progressive shit that hasn't changed in the past 50 years. And again, D&D already gave you the option to play as orcs. You can humanize the orcs. The Elder Scrolls has also done a great deal in humanizing orcs. Without whining about bioessentialism. Boy, that knowledge hub video about the Pulp Fiction tropes, the bioessentialism. I'm sure you all know the exact video I'm referring to. That goddamn video has done so much harm. Yeah, I think it's a goddamn miracle that the Lord of the Rings movies came out like as good as they did, considering they came out just before all this like whiny, diversity inclusion shit kind of started up. What we've gotten, what we would have gotten the Rings of Power otherwise. And like me and my friends years ago, we made jokes about like Gondor supremacy, like oppressing the orcs and stuff. I didn't think people would actually be doing that nowadays. Dubious 835 says, "What would they be without something to complain about?" Yes, what would they be indeed? And yeah, that does it for my prepared remarks. You can say your last pieces now if you want. Hey, Clint H says they would be people who won't keep carrying on this diversity and victim shit. Yeah, that would be something. They would have to find real jobs if they didn't have, the license from the state to talk about this stupid crap and whine about, orcs and stuff. Has anybody ever just confronted one of these people and just said, if you look at a green man with tusks and you see like a black person, you might be racist? Like the idea of like orcs being racist, like that never crossed my mind. Like until I started hearing morons talking about it. Like, like I'm gonna pull up a picture here for a second. If you just give me a stupid, gotta look up a picture here. Hey, here we go. Give me a second. Just let me pull this up. Oh boy, that's a big one that you gave me. Oh my God, look at his white skin and pointy ears. That's a black person. Like what? What kind of a moron looks at this and thinks that's like black people? Like what about this is remotely stereotypically black? Can somebody explain this to me? I don't see it at all. Like if anything, aren't they caricatures of like the lower class like English people? As illustrated by the fact that they have pale white skin and talk with Cockney accents. You could argue it's classist, maybe, but like I don't see like the racial like undertones here. C Punk Messiah refers to liberal racism going strong. Well said. Clint H says brick no hit back tomorrow. I will unfortunately that line does not come up, but other things from Bloodsport do come up. Yeah, I literally just have to make the thumbnail for the video, and then I will upload it today to be scheduled tomorrow. Hey, you can say your last pieces in the last minute or so. Okay. Uh, Shinseki Evans says a lot of prejudices of the past would have long been forgotten had activists not talked about them, like mammies, watermelon, etc. Yes, I feel so too. Like like a lot of these kind of racial stereotypes, like you don't really see anybody talking about them now. You keep bringing them up. Yeah, Clint H says, East London born and bred. He's a Cockney. Well, again, like I've always felt that if the orcs are sort of stereotypes of anything, it is sort of like the English lower classes. Certainly not like black people. Timothy Adams says, "My work makes Saturday bearable. I try, sir." Rick says, "Thank you, Larson." And again, if you have anything else to say, you can say it now. My wife says that she made my workday bearable. Well, I try. And Clint H says he agrees. It looks more like a stereotype of the English lower classes rather than black people. Yes. Either that or like, if anything, aren't orcs kind of stereotypes of like European like barbarians, like Vikings and stuff? Yeah, those black people with their axes and like braided hair and armor, that's totally a stereotype of African people. Hey, Timothy Adams says Redditors are making Phil Elmore's history very public. I would make a video on him, but he threatened to dox me, so I admit I backed down. Anyway, that does it for me. This has been Larsen Halleck for Larsen Halleck. All of you have a good day.